Welcome back! It's great to have you join us. As you begin to transition to a more sustainable lifestyle, you may find it can be a struggle to reach your goals initially. But don't worry. Becoming sustainable doesn't happen overnight. It'll take you a little while to develop the good habits and careful planning required to live sustainably. So what can you do in the meantime? Well, today we're talking with Howard, the founder of offCents, who can tell us a little bit about carbon offsetting. So welcome, Howard. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't we just start? Tell us a little bit about your background and what sustainability means to you.
So I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. I studied economics and finance at the University of Pennsylvania. And then I spent 10 years in private equity. And we invested across many different asset classes, and everything from late stage venture capital to your mega buyout transactions. And in the latter half of my time in private equity, we focused on energy and infrastructure as well. And what I learned from my time investing in energy and infrastructure was that the world requires a rapid transformation to renewable infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And that led me to sustainability. And so sustainability to me means incorporating a value of conservation into business practices today. And we're ultimately focused on building businesses that can scale and tackle climate change rapidly.
So carbon offsetting does just that. So can you explain to me and for all of us a little bit more about what exactly carbon offsetting is?
Carbon offsetting is a market-based approach to reducing carbon emissions. So through carbon offsetting, we reward those that reduce carbon emissions, and those that create carbon emissions can pay to reduce their footprint.
So it's sort of a transaction between the user and these businesses that are working actively to offset carbon emissions?
Exactly. So in our daily lives, we consume products that all have an environmental impact, whether it's the products we use, the food we eat, or gasoline we use for transportation. They all have a cost to our environment. And so what we want to do is increase the value for stored carbon and reducing carbon emissions or mitigating them. So we want to create a business model where someone can be rewarded for stopping deforestation or reforesting an area, or mitigating carbon emissions through creating renewable energy, solar and wind, or our landfill gas capture projects that capture CO2 and methane emissions from landfills. And those projects, in a lot of ways, need an end buyer. And through carbon offsetting, they can sell their reductions to those that need to reduce carbon footprint in their daily lives.
So how exactly does your app, offCents, help people use it in order to bring carbon offsetting into their own lives?
Mm-hmm. Well, our app is designed to, one, educate you about your footprint, and it effortlessly tracks your transportation and shows you what your footprint is from all the various forms of transportation. And then we'll enable you to purchase carbon offsets through our application. And we do all the behind the scenes work to buy carbon offsets from validated and verified carbon reduction projects, and then retire them on your behalf. And one carbon credit is equal to 1 metric ton. So if a project is verified for reducing 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide emissions, they can sell 1 carbon offset. So we purchase on behalf of our users and retire the carbon offset. That carbon offset can never be used again. And the only way that a project can create more revenue or more carbon offset sales is to reduce more carbon emissions. And we do all this behind the scenes work for our users. Our users just need to understand what their footprint is. We automatically detect, calculate, and enable you to access the carbon offset market through our app, offCents.
So you're sort of the middleman between the user and the project that is reducing carbon emissions.
Exactly. And we give a more tangible user interface or a more tangible application for a very intangible problem. One, carbon emissions we can't see, touch, or feel, but it is one of the largest problems that we're facing today. And transportation in the US is now the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions. So we give a very simple application to help you reduce those emissions.
That's amazing. So do you find that your users use your app for their daily commutes to offset their carbon emissions every day, all the time? Or is it more something that they use for one-off occasions like a vacation or a getaway?
Well, that's the beauty of how we built offCents. We built it to sit in the background of your phone and capture everything. So you don't need to log into offCents every day, but you could log in once a week or once every other week or once a month and review all your trips and choose to offset what you like. And that probably will capture some of your daily commutes, some of your vacations as well. And so it enables you to effortlessly track everything. And today in our lives, we take Ubers, we take cabs, subways, planes, trains. So we enable you to capture everything and reduce those emissions.
Do you find that most of your users know what carbon offsetting is and gravitate towards your app because of that? Or is it something you're finding you have to educate them on?
Well, carbon offsetting has been around for some time now. It goes all the way back to the Kyoto Protocol. What we want to do with carbon offsetting is increase the market and the accessibility to it. And we think with our application, it not only educates users that aren't aware of what carbon offsetting is, but it makes it very tangible. You can understand exactly what your footprint is, and then we offset exactly to the pound your carbon emissions. So I think once you are in the app and you see the projects we support, you see the statistics that we generate for the user, the amount of carbon emissions, it becomes more intuitive of what carbon offsetting is. But I think until now, individuals in large part probably aren't aware fully of how carbon offsetting works.
Yeah, it can be a confusing thing, and you are definitely out there driving that train and helping us all understand. Are you finding that you have any challenges connecting with the rest of the sustainable community with your new app?
Well, we've been pretty low key to start. We're very early, but in the few instances that we've reached out, we're finding that there are many groups focused on many different challenges within climate change, but that's a good thing. There are companies focused on reducing waste, plastic. There are companies focused on generating more solar and wind generation. And so we found ourselves fitting in this niche of tackling transportation, which is one of the hardest sectors of the economy to decarbonize. But this is a good thing because we believe offCents will be one of many solutions needed to tackle climate change. With the need to reduce carbon emissions by almost half by 2030 and by 85% or more by mid-century, we need everything on the table. We need not only applications like offCents that drives capital to carbon reducing projects, but also investment in new technologies and continuing building of renewable energy. We need governments, we need regulations, we need businesses and individuals to all participate. One thing that we have found from the sustainability community is there's a number of CSR or sustainability officers from corporations that have actually reached out to us looking for an enterprise solution to reduce employee transportation. We're currently in beta working with a few companies, and we hope to roll that out soon.
So then you have created some great partnerships that actually reward your users for using the app. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So what we've done is created reward partnerships with other sustainably focused brands. The idea is to further incentivize individuals to offset their carbon emissions. And so we've created a number of partnerships. We have a bracelet from 4Ocean that for every bracelet redeemed, they remove 1 pound of trash from the ocean. We have a bamboo toothbrush from Brush with Bamboo. We have a health bar from a company, Regrain, that upcycles spent grain from beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very interesting. And we're looking to add new partnerships very soon.
So recently, too, you were featured on the App Store. Is that correct? For Earth Day. That must have been really exciting.
It was. It was very exciting. It's great that Apple does these type of promotions. They did a story with, I think it was 10 apps that help you live a more green life. And we were featured in a top position on the App Store. And it obviously drove a lot of engagement for us and exposure. And, you know, it was exciting. You never really know how Apple will show your application, but when it finally came to, it was very exciting for us.
Yes, that's a huge platform to be featured on. And like you said, go Apple for totally taking that initiative on Earth Day. That's really cool. So let's wrap up, I guess, with, do you have any other tips other than your amazing app and other things like that, riding bikes and stuff, to help people live a more sustainable lifestyle?
Sure. Obviously, try and walk and bike as much as you can, take public transportation. But as we're approaching the summer months, and maybe to reflect on my time investing in infrastructure and energy and private equity, we are approaching the time where peak demand occurs on our electricity grid. And that's when some of the dirtiest energy comes onto the grid in our hottest days. So our natural gas peaking plants. And so as we get into the real summer months, do everything you can to try and reduce your energy consumption. Turn off your ACs or turn up the thermostats. Make sure every appliances are turned off when you leave for the day. And that will save a lot of carbon emissions.
Thank you so much, Howard, for joining us. I have learned so much. I know that for a fact. You are educating us all on carbon offsetting. It's a really inspiring thing.
Well, thank you for having me.